Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Murat Gassiev has returned from a year out of the ring in Armenia with a win over Kem Ljungquist in the 5th round of their fight on an IBA Champion Nights card, which you can find on YouTube. So this fight was huge for Gassiev's career in respect of he needed to win, he needed to look good, he really needed a stoppage to help promote the next phase of his career, because after the Varnin loss, it was a little unclear about what he was going to do next. And obviously, a year out of the ring, not a lot of momentum. But it was, in some respects, a little bit of a strange fight because it sort of went in phases. And Kem Ljungquist, who was heading into this one 18-0, seemed to be content to box to the tune that Murat Gassiev set in terms of the pace of the fight. So what we had for the first 3 rounds of the fight was a pretty sedate pace, and you had Kem Ljungquist employing a somewhat successful but also not able to maintain it part-time strategy of boxing, moving, turning Gassiev, and Gassiev just seemed to be content to sort of plod forward and, you know, really sort of pitter-patter stuff for the most part. The odd big shot, but it resembled for the most part a sort of sparring session, and they seemed to be going at about half pace for those first 3 rounds. But Ljungquist was looking good in spots, but he wasn't able to maintain the box move turn Gassiev strategy, and sometimes would just allow Gassiev just to walk straight up, straight in, and start to get a bit of work away. Pretty close competitive early rounds, not a lot in them. You could probably have some of those rounds split between the two of them. Round 4 was when Gassiev, who, like I say, had been out of the ring for a year, sort of moved out of first gear into a second gear, looked a bit more aggressive, starting to land a bit more, and Ljungquist was trying to respond, and it actually led to, I think, the final minute and a half, you know, good back and forth trading, and you sort of thought, okay, well, if Ljungquist can sort of keep this up and try to keep Gassiev at bay to some extent, maybe he can still have some continued success in the fight. But it wasn't to be, because round 5 Gassiev sort of stepped it up another gear, and he was starting to look pretty dangerous, really starting to rip in big shots, and it was a huge left hook to the body, which Ljungquist visibly was pained by and dropped straight to the canvas, and this ended the fight. Ljungquist couldn't get up, couldn't beat the count, and Murat Gassiev gets a 5th round stoppage on this IBA Champions Night card in Armenia. And the nationality of Gassiev, he has taken Armenian citizenship, and this fight actually was meant to be a week ago, but had to be moved because there were some visa issues for Gassiev. So all in all, it was an okay performance by Gassiev, but it's not like he sort of set the world on fire. But I guess after the time out of the ring, he just used the opening rounds to sort of warm himself into the fight, and then gradually stepped it up. And I think most of us ahead of this fight would have thought that Kem Ljungquist, who had a pretty padded record, really, I mean, he was 18-0, but for the most part, for the past 2 or 3 years, he had been treading water. It had been time, probably 3 years ago, for him to have a significant step up in class, an opponent, but he just couldn't get it. But the height and the weight difference, he wasn't able to really sort of employ that as effectively as some bigger heavyweights have in the past. Otto Wallin, notably a southpaw like Ljungquist, who was able to utilize his height and reach over Gassiev, but Ljungquist could only do it part of the time, as I say. So actually heading into this fight, Ljungquist was rated number 25 in the world on BoxRec, which I think is probably a generous ranking given the quality of the opponents. But sometimes if you remain unbeaten, you know, you can actually raise a little bit higher than perhaps your stock suggests that you should. I think Ljungquist is more of a sort of top 40 type of guy. And for Gassiev, with the time out of the ring, yeah, it was fine. I think this opponent, and he's able to get a little bit of credit by taking the O of Kem Ljungquist, the Danish heavyweight. But yeah, Ljungquist had been treading water, not up to much in recent years, and someone was going to take that O eventually. So a situation now that Murat Gassiev, he moves to 31 and 2 losses. As we know, 1 loss to Alexander Usyk back in, 2018, the World Super Series final, and more recently Otto Wallin a year ago. So this will put him in the frame potentially for bigger fights. And after the performance against Wallin, maybe they chose Ljungquist specifically because he's roughly the same dimensions and also a southpaw, and Gassiev struggled with that combination last time out. But there is a difference in the class between Wallin and Ljungquist, so let's not get it twisted and say they were the same guy. Kem Ljungquist is a step or two below where Wallin is at. I wouldn't actually mind seeing a rematch. I mean, Wallin ended up going to face Joshua and lost that, and it didn't look very good in there. I wonder if Gassiev would be interested to try and get a little bit of get back. I mean, I know that the result suggested the fight was pretty close, but I think Wallin was a pretty worthy winner in that one. But has Gassiev done enough to put himself in the frame for a Saudi card? I'm not so sure. I think he needs another performance against a slightly bigger name that poses more risk, and Gassiev has to go in there and basically do a number and get a really good result, to highlight real knockout, but look good throughout, not just sort of step it up and have one good round of action and sort of look pedestrian for the rest of the fight. Because let's face it, the first few rounds wasn't looking fantastic. It looked like a pretty leisurely sparse, fought at a sedate pace, and Ljungquist never really tried to take control of this fight as potentially he could have. When he was boxing, moving, turning Gassiev, and able to stay busy with his hands, Gassiev wasn't able to do much, but Ljungquist just couldn't keep it up. Gassiev, he moves on. Ljungquist takes that first loss on his record. What did you think of the fight? What did you think of the performance? And what next for Murat Gassiev? Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.